Binary molecular compounds are composed of two nonmetals. They can either be monovalent, bivalent, or trivalent. Monovalent molecular compounds are compounds with a valency of 1, whereas bivalent compounds contains 2 valence electrons and trivalent contains 3 valence electrons. The most common example of monovalent molecular compounds are NaCl and KBr. NaCl stands for sodium chloride. Sodium chloride contains sodium and chloride ions. Sodium ion has a charge of +1, and chloride ion has a charge of -1. When these ions combine, the -1 charge associated with the chloride ion will cross over to the sodium ion, and the +1 charge from the sodium ion will cross over to the chloride ion. This ion combination will create a compound with the formula of NaCl. KBr stands for potassium bromide. Potassium bromide contains potassium and bromide ions. Potassium ion has a charge of +1, and bromide ion has a charge of -1. When the two ions combine, the -1 charge associated with the bromide ion will cross over to the potassium ion, and the +1 charge from the potassium ion will cross over to the bromide ion. This ion combination will create a compound with a formula of KBr. NH4,2SO4 stands for ammonium sulfate. Ammonium sulfate contains two ions, which are ammonium and sulfate. Ammonium ion has a charge of +1, and sulfate ion has a charge of -2. When these ions combine, the -2 charge associated with the sulfate ion will cross over to the ammonium ion, and the +1 charge from the ammonium ion will cross over to the sulfate ion. This ion combination will create a compound with a formula of NH4,2SO4. Some other examples of monovalent compounds are silver chloride, nitric acid, and ammonium nitrate. Example of a bivalent molecular compound is MgSO4, which stands for magnesium sulfate. Magnesium sulfate contains two ions, which are magnesium and sulfate. Magnesium ion has a charge of +2, and sulfate ion has a charge of -2. When these ions combine, the -2 charge associated with the sulfate ion will cross over to the magnesium ion, and the +2 charge from the magnesium ion will cross over to the sulfate ion. This ion combination will create a compound with the formula of MgSO4. CaCO3 stands for calcium carbonate. This compound contains calcium and carbonate ions. Calcium ion has a charge of +2, and the carbonate ion has a charge of -2. When the two ions combine, the -2 charge associated with the carbonate ion will cross over to the calcium ion, and the +2 charge from the calcium ion will cross over to the carbonate ion. This ion combination will create a compound with the formula of CaCO3. ZnO stands for zinc oxide. Zinc oxide contains both zinc and oxygen ions. The zinc ion has a charge of +2, and the oxygen ion has a charge of -2. Since the charge for both ions in zinc oxide is 2, we will write the formula as ZnO. Some other examples of bivalent compounds are copper sulfate, calcium sulfate, and zinc sulfide. Some examples of trivalent molecular compounds are aluminum nitride and iron nitride. Aln stands for aluminum nitride. Aluminum nitride contains aluminum and nitrogen ions. Aluminum ion has a charge of +3, and nitride ion has a charge of -3. Since the charge for both of the ions in aluminum nitride is 3, we write the formula as Aln. Fen stands for iron nitride. Iron nitride contains iron and nitrogen ions. Iron has a charge of +3, and nitrogen ion has a charge of -3. Since the charge of both of the ions in iron nitride is 3, we write the formula as Fe(N).